Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Gridiron Uncensored. I am Trevor. That is Blake. And as you can see, we are missing our fearless leader, Brendan, to another wonderful winter sickness. Uh, Hope everybody's doing good tonight. And we're just going to kind of start rolling right into it. Chat is live, everybody, on Facebook and YouTube. So hop on in, throw comments in, questions, and we will address them throughout the show. So let's just kind of dive right into this, and we'll start with our
Let's do it.
pick'ems. We'll just start with our pick'ems that we did this week, and we'll just kind of right off the top of the gate, we'll just go with the crazy one: Michigan upsetting number 2 Ohio State, and basically setting the whole stage for chaos to happen in the playoff
Oh,
rankings.
absolutely insane. What a weekend.
It was absolutely insane.
What a
So
weekend.
Michigan, surprisingly, in my opinion, their defense played probably the best game that they played all season, hands down, start to
Oh, yeah.
finish. They shut down the run game. They were getting penetration in the on that offensive line. Now we did say Ohio State's offensive line was suspect,
Yep.
and it came to be true in this particular case
Yep.
with Ohio State's offensive line really not doing a good job at all. Not the running game was for the most part non-existent. Honestly, I was very impressed, the most impressed with the secondary. Now they did give away a few plays here and there. That being said, though, Jeremiah Smith is a freak athlete. Plus, they have a few other really good wide receivers, Emeka Ibuka, and the third wide receiver is escaping me off at this point in time. But they have a good 3 wide receivers that are phenomenal athletes that they, for the most part, kept in check. And with a couple turnovers, I mean, they had a couple really key turnovers in the red zone. Man, I just thought that they played a very complete game on defense. Offense did exactly what I kind of expected them to do, is just do enough and pray that the defense can kind of hold serve for the most part. What was your opinions on the game for the most part?
I thought Will Howard was awful. There was a lot more turnovers than I expected there to be in that game.
Mm-hmm.
I was shocked by Michigan's defense holding Ohio State like that. I really expected a lot more points to be scored in that game. If you had told me 23 points would be the total over under, I would have took over all day. I mean, you
In
think
my
it's
in my
21
head, I was
point?
like, man, I should have made that bet. I would have made some real money.
Oh, I know. 20. Yeah, I agree, Jacob. 21 and a half point favorites,
Yeah.
and it's just insane. And that was just to start the day. There are several more that we're gonna get to. Yeah,
Yeah, that started us
that
off, and then we just kind of
but
kept on going. So yeah, Blake, if you want to just kick it off with, we'll get back. So for those of you that want us to talk about it, we are going to talk about the planting of the flag and the whole 9 yards, the
yeah,
after stuff. But we're just going to get through this stuff first. So
yeah.
Blake, go ahead with the Alabama Auburn game,
So
the
I
Iron
feel
Bowl.
like Auburn outplayed Alabama. Um, they just couldn't produce points. Peyton Thorne, he's as bad as advertised. There were plays to be had. He couldn't hit them. He looked just like Jalen Milroe. Um, it was offensively an awful performance. Bama with 4 turnovers. Milroe, one of his worst performances, but somehow he's still the guy that wins the game. But terrible quarterback. I've said enough about him. I'm not even going to get into him really. But overall, Alabama's defense, we got gashed up and down the field the whole game, but when they needed to make the plays, they did. We forced some turnovers too. There were some brutal hits. We had a decent fight in that game also. I
Mhm.
think 4 of the games on this list out of the 6 that happened, there were fights. But yeah, the Auburn's defense, I felt like they played pretty solid. Bama, we got up and down the field a few times too. The game could have went either way. The score doesn't really show how sloppy it was on both sides. Auburn missed a few opportunities. Bama missed a few opportunities. It was just an ugly Iron Bowl, but I'm glad Bama come out on top.
Yeah, and from if I guess if the committee follows suit with what the AP says, they have Bama in the playoff at this point. So that'll be an interesting to see next week or this next couple, or was it Tuesday they come out with that? So
I believe they're going to be this Tuesday they will, and then the final one I think is next Sunday.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, so it'll be interesting to see if the committee follows suit with what the AP is showing. And Gamecocks come through again at trying to cause chaos. So they came through again, man. I couldn't believe it. I was like, man, that quarterback of theirs, he can run. That mofo can run. Good Lord.
I gave too much credit to Clemson.
I think so. I think I did as well. I was tentative on picking South Carolina, I believe, and like I don't know. It was interesting, but man,
I just found it hard to trust.
Right? I feel like it's
I found it hard to trust their offense, but because last year I did it several times and it didn't, it was awful. But this year, Sellers, as the season has went on, he's gotten better and better each week, and he's getting more confident. You can tell the way he runs versus how he ran in the beginning of the season.
Yep.
Yeah, that defense of South Carolina it's something to be reckoned with.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are, Barbara. And Jacob, to kind of go back to your point, I will say that I don't know why. I've been saying this from the get-go. Since he transferred, I have said that he is no better than the quarterback that they had last year. So, not really sure. Maybe because he's taller. I don't know.
A lot of it, Jacob, is media. The media hypes him up to make this something that, look at Milroe. 15 touchdowns and 9 interceptions on the season, and they're talking about him being a top first-round quarterback. Get out of here.
Yep, exactly right. So there's that. And yeah. So what's next? Oh, yeah. Louisville coming through.
Not even anything to say about it. They stomped Kentucky.
They just stomped UK. And they drove those Wildcats right out of their own building. Good Lord. I could not believe what I was watching.
I couldn't either. I expected Kentucky's defense to put up a little more of a fight than that.
I really did too. I honestly thought they would. They have enough talent to hang with Louisville. That was not the issue. I guess the issue was the fact that they just didn't decide not to show up. But yeah, there's that. So okay, so let's get into the next one here. Texas at Texas A&M. So let's see here. Whatever. Texas did what Texas needed to do. Whatever.
Well, it was so A&M. They could not tackle for anything. Wozner tore up that man. He was running at will. The secondary of A&M was awful, and they have been all season. Marcel Reed was not the answer. He was struggling getting the ball downfield. He had moments there at the end of the game. They had an opportunity. They just, they blew it. Texas, I don't know. I still am just. They're a solid team. I don't think Ewers is the answer. I feel like Arch Manning.
Arch Manning's the answer. He's got the legs for it. He's just got this is going to come out weird because I can never say this properly, but livelier legs.
Yeah.
If that makes sense to you. Like,
I think he's a better passer.
He's a better passer. He seems to be a more accurate passer as well. Absolutely.
I feel like there was a lot of points that Texas did not score because of Ewers, and that if Arch Manning was in the game, they would have been touchdowns. And Jacob could probably answer that better than me, but just from what I watched,
resident Texas guy.
Yeah, I seen a lot left on the field on the Texas side and on the A&M side too. There were several drives. The A&M had stops and just very, very poor tackling defensively. And Wozner could be that good too. It's possible, but I've seen A&M struggle with tackling and in the secondary all season.
Yeah.
So it just carried over there.
And with regards to Texas, no disrespect to them, but there is literally no one outside of Oregon that I feel like is a cut and dry, should be a favorite to get to the Natty. Yeah. Outside of Oregon, I don't have anybody that's like, oh yeah, they're getting there. 100%.
That's kind of where I'm at, honestly. They're the only team to me that has kind of clear
Been
cut,
consistent for the most part.
yeah, separated themselves from the rest of the pack, and it's not significant, but it is significant enough to say I would put them in a tier one above everyone else. The rest is, it's a second tier to me.
Right. So yeah, but yeah, Texas good win. But yeah, Texas A&M do better.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, K State, Iowa State. I mean, Iowa State did what it had to do.
Yeah, that game was a boring game to watch for
It
me.
really
I
was.
watched it, but it was
It
boring.
was kind of terrible. um,
But Iowa State, they dug in, they got it out of there. Johnson not being in on that last drive there, or the last couple plays, would it have made a difference? Probably not. But you want your best guy on the field, especially on a fourth down. But yeah, they couldn't get it done.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And there's not much to say to this. Obviously, Brendan and I both picked ISU to win. Blake went with K State in this particular one.
They had a
Um,
horrible week.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So as you can see, Trevor definitely was the winner this week. Me, I
Yep.
definitely had a
It's all
good
you to
week.
catch Brendan.
Finally,
I had to pick the way I picked because I'm so far behind.
I know.
So I
Well,
know
yeah,
my
yeah.
picks are going to look awful. But
I've got to
if I
get
get
with Brendan and seeing how close I can, how close am I to catching up?
I want to
I gotta
say
be.
he had a 6 or an 8 game lead on you, so you just made up
I
two
made up it.
games on him.
Yeah, I made up a couple games. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And in my opinion, as far as the group of five is concerned, this is the surprise
yeah.
of the week, as far as I'm concerned, and that Memphis pulling out the upset against Tulane. I mean, I thought that was impressive that Memphis came out on top on that one. To be perfectly honest
Well,
with you, because I
I
was
know
not confident.
they had the offense to do it,
They do.
and
They
I
do
just
have the
thought
offense.
Tulane was on a hot streak, and the way they beat Navy, I was just, I was kind of on the train there with them for a minute. I'm like, well, maybe they're a little bit better than average. I mean, I knew they was good, but
Yeah.
I hadn't watched them much, so I didn't really know much about them. So I just rode the hot hand on that one. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was a good pick.
Yeah, yeah. And yes, Jacob, I also expected Tulane to be dominant. But I took a chance on Memphis in this one just because I picked them in the preseason as being one of the top group of five teams, and they came out on top. I mean, it was still a pretty decent game. I mean, they came out 34-24 in this one, so it's not like Tulane keeled over and get, but they covered the spread, and then all right. And then we get to the game that just was absolutely insane.
Yes,
Absolutely insane. Mr. and Mrs. 9 overtime, Georgia Tech game. And I'll tell you what, like that game was fun to watch.
it was.
Those guys, both teams played a pretty darn good game. Georgia Tech surprised the crap out of me, and my God, I can't think of his name right now. Good Lord,
Haynes King.
Haynes King, thank you. Haynes
Yep.
King for president. Holy crap. Like Jesus. They need to build a statue for that guy after that performance. To like Iron Man statue or something, because he was getting beat up by all 11 guys on the defense.
Yeah.
He was
Well,
their running game.
I will say the Carson Beck of old finally found himself in the second
Mm-hmm.
half. I mean, he looked like the old Carson Beck
Yeah,
after
he got his head
halftime.
out of his ass a little bit there in the second
And
half. For sure.
I do want to bring up officiating because Twitter, I mean, the world was set on fire
Yep.
over the officiating, but I don't blame officiating for Georgia Tech losing the game. For one, if they were to win this game in the first quarter, they had 3 drives inside the 20-yard line of Georgia and walked away with 3 points.
Yep.
To go into Athens, it's the number 7 team,
Mm-hmm.
you got to put points on the board, and
100%.
they didn't. Georgia is a second half team. I'd
They
say
are.
Kirby Smart is probably the best in the business at making adjustments to games,
Yep.
and he's done it all year long. The
He
only
really
game
has.
that
He's always
really
been
the
the
Ole
dude
Miss
for that.
game was the only one that I've seen this year that they didn't make really good adjustments in. I mean, Bama, they had a huge comeback, nearly won the game. This game, they had a huge comeback. And was there some questionable calls? Sure. It's been across the entire board this year. And there was some that was missed on Tech too. Just the ones on Georgia got noticed more because they were more in more controversial moments,
Right.
more or less. But either way, they didn't lose because of officiating.
No, not
They
at all.
didn't.
And to tack on to that point is that it wasn't officiating, and Tech left about. I mean, there's got to be some 2-point conversions in there. Like you could have sealed
Right?
the game away a couple
I
different
know.
times.
It's
Couple
several
different
times.
times.
Yeah, they had
So,
eight
I mean, don't get me
overtimes
wrong,
to do
Georgia
it.
could
So
have as well. So it's
right,
just like at some point in time, you got to look in the mirror and just say, like we just didn't get the job done when we could have.
yep.
So yeah, that was a fun game to watch. And Barbara, thank you. Yes, I said 9, I meant 8. I meant 8
Yep.
overtimes.
We wanted 9.
We wanted 9, but we got 8. But yeah, that was really honestly probably one of my favorite games to watch this season. It
Yeah,
was pretty fun.
it
Michigan
was.
Ohio State was pretty freaking phenomenal, but that's just a fandom in me. But
Yeah,
yeah, that one was an absolutely amazing game. So Tennessee and Vandy disappointing me, man. I really thought that they were just gonna jump on them and stay on them, but they just couldn't hang.
oh, man,
Tennessee just
I
hit another
was.
gear, and I don't know. The talent outweighed what Vandy
Yeah,
had, unfortunately, in this particular game. I think.
yeah. Llama Lover, he caught fire, and Dylan Sampson. I
Yep.
mean, he's just a hard one to bring down. Not
Yep.
really too much to say. Me and we was out in town. I checked the score on my phone. It was like 17-7,
Yeah.
Vandy. And then by the time we got home, Tennessee had tied it up, and
Yeah.
that was it.
It was pretty quick.
Yeah,
It was a pretty quick turnaround for Tennessee. So I guess props to them for making the adjustments they needed to make, and getting after it. And then Army this one is pretty self-explanatory. Army pulling out the win against the Roadrunners. UTSA just didn't have enough to hang with Army.
yep.
And so that pretty much covers our pick'ems. Now, Blake, do you want to talk about all the extracurriculars now, or do you want to wait till after we're done with all the other stuff?
We can just knock that out at the end with our question of the day.
Yeah, that'll work. We'll do that. All right, on to the next slide. And this is up for the gridlocks of the week. Brendan went with Arkansas. That did not pan out well. Arkansas dropped the ball pretty hard. Blake, you
They
went with
had the
Syracuse
game.
and you nailed it, buddy. Like you
I
got it.
needed a big one. I needed a
You
big
got
one.
it, bud. That was a very, very big one, and it wasn't on our list, but it was a huge game, a huge upset, because it's going to shake. That particular game also is shaking up the college football playoff, because I mean, there's a significant possibility that Miami is no longer in the playoff.
Yep.
So it's possible. We'll wait and see, but yeah, good call on that one. Obviously, we just talked about it, but I missed on the Vandy pick. But I was hopeful, but it just didn't happen. So yeah, so Blake is the sole winner for the gridlocks this week, and yeah, that was good pick, man. That was a real good pick. All right, so now we're gonna go into, well, this one's Blake's prediction of how the playoff is going to shake out this Tuesday, on how they're gonna come out with it. So Blake, why don't you go ahead and take us through what you're thinking here?
So this one is actually
Uh-oh. Well, this is actually I believe what he was gonna say is that this one was for he has an auto generator where he plugs in the teams that he thinks is going to be there, and this kind of comes up with a general uh, general layout of how that's going to look. So this one was Blake's. Obviously, he has Oregon at number 1, Georgia winning the SEC at 2, Boise State 4, and SMU winning the SEC is what I'm thinking this is supposed to be showing right now. And let's see here. We got Tennessee in the 8th spot going against Indiana, Notre Dame. All right, you're back. You made it.
Yeah, my internet.
I was just
quick.
going through it, man. I was just kind of going through it. Technical
I don't know what
difficulties
happened
at its finest.
So this is actually I just kind of made this up based on what I think is going to happen in the conference championships. It's nothing really crazy. It's like my Alabama at 12. I think they will put Alabama in deserving. I don't think so. I don't want Alabama in the playoffs myself as a Bama fan. I mean, I'm happy if we get in, and obviously would like us to go and win or whatever. But as far as deserving a spot, I mean, I wouldn't say 100% that I would put Bama in if I was on the committee. But, you know, depending on how everybody else around it falls, I mean, you just don't know what's going to happen. And there's always going to be somebody that's unhappy. But it could be Bama or South Carolina in that position. But I think Alabama will get the nod ultimately because of the head-to-head win over South Carolina. And some of our other wins that we have had, I think may end up benefiting us, like the LSU win after them, you know, their record's getting better. Do I think they're a great team? No. But the more they win, the better it looks on our record.
Mm-hmm.
And then South Carolina, they do have their losses are not as bad as what Bama's are, but they haven't really had outside of Clemson, it's their best win I would put right now is Clemson, and how that factors into Bama's best win, which is Georgia. I think that's more so how the committee will look at it. Brendan actually, I think, had a very similar bracket to mine.
Yeah, we'll go
with
next.
South
We'll
Carolina.
go next to him once we've wrapped this
Yeah.
up. Is that?
Yeah, if you want to flip on over to his.
Yeah, let's take a look at Brendan's here real quick. So
Okay,
Brendan does have a very, very similar, different positions for a lot of things, but for the most part, it is slightly different. South Carolina's in, Bama's out, essentially.
Yeah.
And different positions for some of the other teams, but the top 4 stay the same. And yeah, like I said, Bama's out, South Carolina's in. This is a significant possibility as well. So we'll kind of see how that plays out next Tuesday. And the next one's kind of a crazy one and a fun one that Blake just kind of said, well, it's a what if scenario.
Yeah.
So here we go. This is the chaos theory.
Yeah. So even with this season, I wouldn't even say it's a what if. It's a could it happen with the way every weekend is going. Mm-hmm. And I'm seeing even some few more things about, is it possible that a Big 12 or ACC conference champion doesn't even get in the playoffs?
And see, I'm going to have to double check on things, but I'm fairly certain the way it is that the conference champ automatically gets in. The 4 conference champs get in automatically.
So yes, that is correct. But the game of 5 or game of
the
5, group of 5, yeah. Their conference champion will. The thing I seen on Twitter was talking about if Clemson beats SMU, depending on how far they fall, is it possible that they leave Clemson out, or if UNLV beats Boise, they get left out if SMU wins the ACC? I don't know if that's a possibility. I know for the bye that they said, or Brendan, we was talking about it earlier, for the bye, first round bye, it would be the higher ranked conference champion would get 4 highest ranked conference champions. So that would, depending on how that falls, could be SMU or Arizona State, Iowa State, just depending on how those 2 pan out. The SEC and Big Ten, they're a lock for the first round bye. But if UNLV pulls the upset on Boise, and regarding this bracket, everything I just said was just stuff I was reading on Twitter. I don't know if it's even possible. But
Yeah,
in this scenario here, you got Oregon losing to Penn State in the conference championship, Texas beating Georgia, SMU losing, Iowa State beating Arizona State, and then you've got UNLV beating Boise. I mean that's a lot of
that's a
upset.
lot of yeah. I guess you'd call them upsets. Yeah,
Yeah, and I've seen different. I've been doing this all day, looking at different scenarios. I've seen people having South Carolina and Alabama both getting in somehow. Um, I don't know what all would have to happen. I think most people have pretty well tossed Miami after having no top 25 wins and 2 losses. I don't see the committee putting them in there. And I mean, I don't see a reason they should be.
yeah. They
If you have
shouldn't be.
two
I don't think
losses,
they should
yeah,
be in there. Really,
yeah, with no top 25 wins and 2 losses, I mean, there's
they
no
held
reason
their
to
own
be in
fate in
there.
their hands and they dropped the ball.
Yep. And but the thing is with the UNLV, I don't think that's far fetched. I mean, UNLV almost had them in the regular season, um, and they've gotten a lot better offensively, and I think they could pull it off. Oregon losing to Penn State, that's the one that I'm like, I mean, I don't know, but Penn
I feel like
State, I
that's
know it
a
was
stretch.
Maryland, but Penn State looked good against Maryland, and
Yeah.
Maryland's not a great team, but the type of offense they run, I mean, I guess is similar in nature to
I mean,
Oregon's.
really, I mean, I know we're all of these are penciling in Georgia into the playoff, but there is a chance that they don't show up and
Yeah,
they
if
get surprised by
absolutely,
and lose in
if
their championship game.
if Texas beats Georgia, I mean, there's a possibility that Georgia's not in the playoffs.
Hmm.
I mean, there's an absolute possibility, though. Their losses, I would argue, are their losses would be Alabama, Texas, and Ole Miss.
Yeah,
I mean, you're getting
Ole Miss,
into the
the Ole
whole,
Miss one, the Ole Miss one. I mean, countrywide, I feel like is a little harder to explain, just
yeah,
because they have been so ridiculously inconsistent all season
yeah,
long.
yeah.
So I think
So
that's the only one that's hard to explain. But Texas and losing to Texas, losing to Alabama, I mean, both of those teams are potentially playoff bound. So,
yeah,
well, Texas definitely
so
is if they win the championship. But
yep. But we won't sit too long on this because we could talk for 8 hours about
the
the
what
different
if
scenarios here.
scenarios.
But this is the one I want. I want this scenario because I want the chaos. but
I am here for the chaos, 110%. All right.
but
So
so now we can get to the
so
big
let's
events of the weekend.
address one question I saw from Jacob real quick, and then we're going to address the big questions.
All right.
So I saw this. Nope, that's not it. So has Miami been exposed, or did they get caught in a trap game? Well, yes and yes, in my opinion. I think they got caught in both. They've been exposed, and they were also in a trap game because I don't think Syracuse is as good as this game showed them to be, but I also don't think Miami was as good as advertised as well.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I sit with it. Blake, do you got any thoughts on that one?
I have not been. Cam Ward's a great quarterback, and Miami is loaded with talent, but I don't think Mario Cristobal is that great of a coach. And
No. And
you
Brendan
can
will echo
go,
that. I know Brendan does
yes.
not think highly of him either.
Well, we've said it multiple times on the show. Like
Mhm.
in these games, he makes really dumb decisions. I mean, the Georgia Tech game last year, everybody knows what happened with that. And then in this game this year, you've got arguably one of the top quarterbacks in the country, and you like to kick a field goal with what 3.5 minutes left on against a team whose offense you cannot stop after the half. I mean, I just thought that was the dumbest decision, and then they never get the ball back. So I mean, I think that was a dumb coaching decision there on his part. And I got a good meme that I put out about that actually today. So
Yes, the meme game is strong with the Gridiron Uncensored right now. We're
yeah,
definitely going hard on
Miami.
it.
But just to answer that question, it was a trap game, but at the same time, I mean, I feel like Syracuse just straight up outplayed them, regardless of it being a trap game. I mean, Miami hasn't really faced like a high caliber opponent all season, so it's not really like any different level of competition they had been playing.
Yep.
And they were not a lock for the ACC championship, so they knew they had to win that game.
They
So
had to
I
win. They
really,
had to win.
yeah.
Yep.
So I really don't see that as a trap game as much as I do that Syracuse just beat them outright.
And Mario
You know, like,
Cristobal just didn't make the adjustments needed to get his
yeah,
team the win. Really, I
right.
mean,
Like Georgia would have been an example of the trap game because it didn't matter if they won or lost that game as far as the SEC championship goes. So I mean, they could still lose that game, and they knew if they won the SEC, they was going to be in the playoffs. So
yeah, I
that
would
was
agree
more
with
of a
that.
trap game.
Yeah, like I'm in agreement with you. I mean, it's less of a trap game and more Miami just not showing up to play to and getting outplayed essentially by Syracuse. Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, so that pretty much answers that question. Now, the other question of the weekend that was posed to us offline was that what are our thoughts of the planting of the flag in the center of the field and then the ensuing fights that have happened. So, me, this has always been a thing. This has always been a thing for as long as I can remember. Planting flags, all that stuff like that. New twist to it is cops pepper spraying kids. So that's a new twist. So there's that. But I mean, like, look, the game, Michigan, Ohio State, Iron Bowl, tempers are high. These teams hate each other. They're always doing this. Fans are always chirping about it. At the end of the day, their emotions are high. And I mean, with the Ohio State thing, honestly, I think that was a whole lot of Ohio State more so than it was Michigan. I mean, yeah, the planting of the flag kind of kicked it off, but I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, there's video of Ryan Day just standing there looking like an idiot, like not doing a damn fucking thing about it. He's just, and I think there was one time they showed him with somebody walked by him. He was like, "Hey, what's going on?" Like, I was like, "Come on, man! You can't be a leader of a program like that and not know that your team's in a brawl." Like, I don't understand. Like, I don't
When is there
understand
not
that.
a brawl between Ohio State and Michigan, though?
Really,
I mean, that's like a lock.
like, it's almost a guarantee that the tempers will be high, and it's almost a guarantee. And I feel like the same can be said for the Iron Bowl in Auburn and Alabama, to a certain extent. That one being said, their fight was, I feel like, was more like I watched it and I was like, man, that's some messed up. Like they had one Alabama player surrounded by Auburn players. Like that is that's some Michigan in the tunnel with Michigan State stuff going on right there.
I mean, that's Auburn to a T, man. They're dirty.
That's some cowardly, dirty stuff right there.
That's what they do.
So yeah. But going back to the question, planting the flags, I don't have a problem with it. Like you got beat, take it like a bitch and just walk away.
So like I'm all for fights. Like I love watching football fights. I like the benches clearing, whatever.
Yeah,
absolutely. I don't care.
However, I do think that they need to go to hockey rules. Take the helmets off.
Yeah.
Let's see who actually wants to really fight.
But in reality, like the Michigan player, and I'm not just hating on Michigan, but like I don't know who it was. The player's been going viral for his comments after the game, where he's like, "You got to learn how to lose."
Oh yeah, that was Mullings, the running back. Yeah,
yeah. Like I've never seen Bama put a flag at someone else's midfield, and like just to me, like I don't care that it happens, but I think you can also win with humility, just like you can lose with humility.
And I 100% agree to that point as well. 100%.
Yeah. And but like also like with the planting of the flag at Ohio State, I don't know that it was. I mean, I'm sure it pissed him off him planting the flag to begin with, but I think it was more so the route he took, like walking into the Ohio State.
The second time around when he tried to circle back around,
right,
to come through Ohio
yeah,
State, yeah, like that
I
was
think
asking for trouble. That was
yeah,
just
I think
asking for
he
trouble.
just like walked out to the O, like with it where his team was already standing, and just stuck the flag down, took the picture, and left or whatever. Probably no incident, but walking through the sea of red there, probably not the best route to take.
Not the best idea, I don't think. I think
but,
they might have missed. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
so,
However, like
I can see
there was a
both
couple other
sides
ones.
of it.
Arizona State planting
Yeah.
the Arizona State planting their
The
trident
pitchfork.
in the, so like
Yeah. I didn't see everybody was talking about one at Texas A&M. I must have missed that one. I watched the game.
I watched the game
didn't
too. I don't remember.
I mean, I've seen some chippiness, but I didn't ever see like a full on like fight. Florida State had one. North Carolina, NC State had one. I think there was six or seven that I saw.
6 or 7. It all stemmed from planting the flag or planting whatever at the 50-yard line on the logo.
Yep.
So yep, UNC and NC State definitely got into it.
Yeah, theirs was a good one.
Yeah, they definitely got into it hardcore.
I think it was maybe it was UCLA. Notre Dame. I've seen a solid haymaker in
Notre Dame.
Game.
There's some dirty plays going on with Notre Dame and USC. I do remember seeing a few of those. Some nasty stuff was going on in that game.
Yeah, I like the rough. I don't mind receivers and DBs.
I'm not Ndamukong Suh level, like okay with it, like, but like I'm not wanting people to get stomped on the neck and stuff, like crazy stuff, but like a little chippiness, a little bit of passion. That's always kind of I'm cool with that.
Yep, same.
So all right. So
is that all we got?
Do you have another question, or was that it?
I think that was all we had. I was going to flip back
through
here.
That. Yes, Barbara, 100%. Notre Dame is dirty, like all the way around dirty. Like no one really likes them anyway. They're just kind of there.
Yes, and Barbara, I agree. They should have penalized Alabama and Auburn on that fight because
that was
outrageous. Auburn receiver, he had the DB locked up and drove him into their sideline. And of course, I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to defend yourself, so it should have been flagged both ways or not at all. But, that's how Auburn is. They are dirty. And you probably know that because that is the oldest rivalry in the South.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's all we got, Trevor.
I think that pretty much wraps it up. Okay, so thank you for everyone that has logged on and was watching. We have upwards of 25 watchers tonight. Appreciate you guys. We really do appreciate you taking the time and watching us. We will be coming back Tuesday night.
I believe so. I think it's just you and me again Tuesday.
Yeah, I think Tuesday night it'll just be me and Blake, I believe, again. And we will be talking about the playoff. We'll be looking ahead at what games we have left, and looking ahead, just looking ahead in general on everything. And and just go ahead and like, share, subscribe, everything. We really do appreciate it. YouTube channel, leave any comments on our YouTube as well. It does help us out. With all that said, I think that's it for me and Blake, and I hope you all have great rest of your evening. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, guys.